starting with Anthony, who sends this in. I'm back yet again with the same player as last week. That's when you know things are going well, when somebody's submitting you on a weekly basis. Justin Jefferson, this passing game looks anemic. So, like, what do I do with him? Should I just let it ride or try and sell based off of his name, even if it's selling a little low? Eric B also sent in on JJ McCarthy, which is obviously where the panic for Justin Jefferson is coming from. Let's put aside JJ McCarthy because, I mean, you know, nobody's playing JJ McCarthy in fantasy. I actually just want to talk about Justin Jefferson. This is all related. What's the panic level for you on Justin Jefferson with how things are going right now?
I'm curious if you're going to disagree with me here, and I'm curious if most people would disagree with me, but I'm only going some panic on Justin Jefferson. And a huge part of it is the schedule. I'm going to say it again here. The schedule that they have coming up, I think there is going to be games where this all changes for him. You look at, he gets the Bears this week. That is definitely a winnable game. That's definitely a game where he could put up good stats. But when you look closer to the fantasy playoffs, the Commanders in week 14, the Cowboys in week 15, the Giants in week 16. Like, those games, you cannot tell me that Justin Jefferson is not going to have some big performances in those games. And we're talking about the first 2 weeks of the fantasy playoffs, the Cowboys and the Giants. Those are two of the best possible matchups for fantasy receivers. And you're going to trade away the guy who is still one of the best receivers in the league, even though the offense hasn't looked the same, the offensive line injuries, the quarterback situation. We've talked about it ad nauseum all year long. And yet, Harmon, you're going to tell me you don't want to start Justin Jefferson against the Cowboys and the Giants in the fantasy playoffs? I just can't go more than some panic.
Okay, pull that schedule back up, producers. Pull that schedule back up here that we were just showing, because Boone is highlighting these playoff matchups. I'm looking at week 12 and I'm looking at week 13, Packers, Seahawks. You got to make it through those games to make it to the playoffs. And obviously one player is not all that matters. But anyways, what's your rebuttal to that?
No, I was going to say, we could put some caveats in here, right? And there's been times when I write the buy-sell column where I actually could put a guy in either, because it just depends where your team is at. So yes, if we want to look at Justin Jefferson and say you have a losing team, you're barely fighting for a playoff spot, you need wins right now, in that scenario, yes, you could trade him, and you probably should trade him because you have to win these next few games. And there's a couple matchups in there that we are scared about, and that I think rightfully so, like you point out, those are two tough matchups. And even though he's great with the state of this offense right now in this passing attack, I don't know that you could trust him in it. So yeah, if you have a losing record, if you're trying to get into the playoffs, you need those wins immediately, then sure, look for the trade. But if you are heading to the playoffs, you think you're going to make it to the postseason, you don't necessarily need to win right away, I wouldn't take anything less than like a top 6 or 7 receiver or running back for him. Like, I still think the price should be extremely high, because you're going to trade him away and you're going to regret it. Like, what are you going to get back right now for him that's going to give you the kind of production that he could potentially give you in those later season games from week 14 on?
I'm a little closer to total panic on Justin Jefferson just because of how concerning the McCarthy stuff is for me. I'm not saying he's been unplayable, but 12.7 points per game, 32% targets, 8.5 targets per game, 50% catch rate. And that's great. But just, I don't know, man. McCarthy, it's a weird thing where he looks like he's playing so sped up and everything is coming at him so fast. And yet he is constantly late on all these throws, which I think then he tries to just line drive things in. There's not a lot of touch. There's not a lot of timing. There's not a lot of accuracy. Now, he can get better. He's a young player. I don't think it means it's over for JJ McCarthy just based on how he's played in these 4 games or whatever we've seen him so far. Yeah. 4. Yeah. I'm not writing him off forever. I just think right now, I wouldn't be surprised if Justin Jefferson goes out there and has, you know, an 80-yard game, 90-yard game against the Bears. And like, that's the ceiling that we're talking about here. It's like, oh, this was the hit from this offense, and that's as good as it gets here.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. I think he's going to come out and have a fine game there. You might not get great performances in those other 2 contests. And then I think he is going to finish the season strong. And I think there's a chance that McCarthy has a similar run out as well, where we keep coming back to the fact that, yes, right now, he is not a finished product. he doesn't necessarily look great. At the beginning of some of these games, he looks a little more comfortable. And then as the game goes on, he tends to make some weird decisions and turn the ball over a little bit. But I think down the stretch, as he gets more starts, as he gets a little more comfortable out there, there's certainly a chance that we see this guy. The light can click on at any moment. And we've seen, I don't want to compare him to other good quarterbacks because obviously I did that before the season and you just killed me for it. But there's other guys, I will say, that have come into the league that have had these same kind of struggles early on. And then that switch just flips and they start to get more comfortable and they start to produce. Not everybody is, a Jackson Dart where they come out right away and lead their team to these like shocking victories. So I am willing to give McCarthy a little bit of time. And I think just Jefferson being the player that he is, having that schedule, I think after a few more weeks, we're going to see these guys connect and they're going to do some meaningful things, I think, in the fantasy playoffs. That doesn't mean you should start JJ McCarthy, even though he is, showing that he's running a little bit. We had a season high for him with 48 rushing yards. We need that, I think, for his fantasy value to keep rising here. But right now, he's just a QB2 streamer. You would only consider him in very good matchups where you're a little bit desperate and the waiver wires kind of pick thin. But we will talk about him when we get to the waiver wire section later. And then Justin Jefferson in good matchups, even with this quarterback. I am putting him in my lineup with confidence, and I will do that in the fantasy playoffs as well. And that's why I can't do it, Harmon. I'm staying some panic. You can go total panic, but I can't agree to it.
All right, cool. So we're at a little bit of a difference there. We'll revisit this because we'll see. Maybe Anthony will send in Justin Jefferson for a third straight week next week. We'll see how it goes.
He'll have a great game against the Bears, and we'll be like he's doing great. And then he'll have terrible games the next 2 weeks. Then we'll push it up to total panic. And then he'll finish the year strong. That's probably how it'll go.
And on and on and on and on it goes. That is the state of the state. Here it is. All right. Next one in comes from TT. This is another repeat offender here. Hi, guys. I know we had talked about Teteroa McMillan earlier this season on the panic meter, but continues to underwhelm in a bad Panthers passing attack. Currently, Bryce Young has 1 passing touchdown in his last 3 games, and the Panthers narrative has been dominated by how good the run game is with Rico Dowdle. Ted has been getting the targets and target share, but there are just too many games without the yardage to support him fantasy-wise if he's not getting touchdowns. And oh, by the way, he only has 2 touchdowns on the season that came in 1 game. The reality is that Bryce Young isn't it. And Andy Dalton was far worse, despite fantasy analysts, not this one, not us, saying it would boost McMillan when Bryce was out. I know Ted is a good player in reality, but it continues to hurt having to start him week after week. Thanks. I love the thanks at the end because I don't think that email sounded very thankful to have McMillan on your fantasy team. Where are you at with Teteroa McMillan? And I wonder if it's going to be as harsh as I am about to be.
Oh, it sounds like you might be going total panic or you might be going Coping Corner because I'm going total panic, but I would listen to Coping Corner here. And he pointed it out, right? Like we've only seen that 1 game where he scored the 2 touchdowns. And that was in like the easiest possible matchup against the Cowboys where we all knew he was going to have a good game in that one. Other than that, I mean, it's, 60 yards this week in a game where we weren't even sure if he was going to play on Friday. Like, okay, I'll give him a pass for that. But Bryce Young, yes, he has been extremely shaky. I don't know where this passing attack is going. I don't really see a lot of signs that I feel hopeful that this passing attack is going to get better as the season goes along. So McMillan's doing about as well as he can, and that's making him like a fantasy wide receiver 3. Some weeks he can get up to that wide receiver 2 range. If he finds the end zone, he's just not finding the end zone. This week now, AJ Terrell and the Falcons. I don't love that. The Rams are up in a couple weeks. He's got a bye still on the way. The Seahawks in the fantasy championship. Like, when are you really going to feel confident starting him? When is he going to have 100+ yards? When is he going to find the end zone next? It's tough to project. And I mean, career-wise, like long-term, I think he's going to be good. Like, I think I've seen enough from him that I think he's going to be a really good pro. And it might be a bit of a Garrett Wilson situation where we're going to have to find him another quarterback at some point. But for 2025, I think it's total panic. And then I think for 2026 and beyond, it's probably no panic for me.
Yeah, just tell me what the quarterback situation looks like, because I think I'm
right.
I think I'm pretty close to. I know what Bryce Young is at this stage. McMillan, as TT mentioned, 9th in target share among pass catchers and 2nd in air yard share among pass catchers. I mean, he is getting all of the volume possible, and that is amounting to a player who is 25th in yards per game and has only scored a touchdown in 1 game where he scored 2. And just tell me like what changes here. That's the thing. And beyond just blanket statement, he's in a bad situation with Bryce Young as the quarterback. I found this really interesting from Josh Norris, who follows the Panthers closely. Josh noted that through 10 weeks, Bryce Young, Dave Canales, both is unwilling to throw downfield. Weeks 8 to 18 last year, Bryce Young and the Panthers passing game on 20-plus yard throws ranked 6th in attempt percentage and 2nd in adjusted completion percentage. This year, it's 31st in terms of attempts 20-plus yards downfield. Josh noted that also extends to the intermediate area, so that's 10 to 19 yards, where weeks 8 to 18, they were 3rd in attempt percentage. This year, they're 19th in attempt rate there. And it's just, this is really problematic, especially for Teteroa McMillan, because honestly, Boone, I think he's having, quietly, I think McMillan is basically having the rookie season that Marvin Harrison Jr. was having last year. Just people care less because the name isn't as big, where he's pretty much only lining up outside on the line of scrimmage. He's purely in an X receiver role. They don't give him a lot of quick hitters and layups, so it's a really long developing route tree, and you got a quarterback. To me, I think this is a quarterback issue. I don't think this is a Dave Canales issue. Unless Dave is just, and I don't know, I'm guessing, unless Dave is in his ear like, do not throw downfield, do not throw downfield. Like I watch this team and I see the plays open and available. I just see a quarterback who can't hit him and won't take him consistently. I know he had this stretch that he did it last year, but basically every other stretch of Bryce Young's career, he's not been a guy that will or is able to push downfield. So McMillan is stuck in this low percentage X receiver role on a low volume passing game with a quarterback that we don't trust. I didn't trust Kyler Murray last year, even though people liked him better than they like Bryce Young right now. And then that leads to the receiver has to be absolutely perfect. And this is where if we're calling balls and strikes here, and nobody does this because we've all just decided this is all Bryce Young's fault, McMillan has not been perfect at the catch point this year. He's had some drops. He's had some contested catch losses. He had both a drop and a contested catch loss in this last week's game, which again, that's fine. Every receiver is going to have those plays. But because the opportunities are so limited in this offense, again, he has to be absolutely perfect to hit for fantasy. And it's just tough to expect a rookie to do that. It was tough to expect that of Harrison last year. It's tough to expect that of McMillan this year. So this has nothing to do with McMillan, who I think can be, I don't know if again, we can quibble about what his long-term ceiling is, but right now I think he's a good NFL player. But from a fantasy standpoint, I just think he's in a little bit of a coping corner spot to me based on all of those factors that I considered there, because I just don't really see how they change this up. There's a lot of problems in this offense. I mean, wide receiver 2, Xavier Leggett's just a complete nothing burger. I hate to be mean, but there's just nothing going on there. They don't play Coker enough. They don't target him enough. And this is a huge problem, but it starts with, I think, the lack of downfield passing, and their number one receiver is in an X receiver only role with a downfield route tree.
You make a good point. I will come along with you to coping corner on him. So I didn't go for the last one with Jefferson.
I really wanted you to not, though.
I will go for the bump up here. It's a tough one. I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses for him, but I will also say this. Their schedule so far, like you look at like his schedule specifically, other than that Cowboys game, they haven't had an easy matchup. There has been no green on that schedule, nothing easy for them. So that could be one area that you look at and you go, okay, well, maybe there'll be some easier matchups, but I laid it out. Like most of the matchups left are kind of scary too. So yeah, I'm willing to go that route because I do think rest of the season here, I just don't know that he's going to have like meaningful performances more often than not that are going to make you excited about having him in your lineup. So yeah, I think we could put him in coping corner because he'll score a touchdown or two the rest of the way. I'm not expecting him to just go off and have, 5 straight games with touchdowns or something like that. So yeah, I think it's just an unfortunate situation for a rookie wide receiver where he's got this kind of bad quarterback situation holding him down. And this whole passing attack just hasn't really got going, which is weird because with the rushing attack having as much success as they've had, you would think they'd be able to build off that. Yeah. And this year they just really haven't found a way to do that.
Especially the downfield passing game. You'd think that's exactly what would be able 100%. To happen. But yeah, this is the most risky. I think if we agree and we're going to put him in the coping corner, I think this is the most risky one just because he's a rookie who I don't think is playing poorly. I mean, again, there's some mistakes here, but I don't think he's playing poorly. It's just, it's these like 60-yard games every week. It's not going to kill you to start him in fantasy as a wide receiver 3, but he was drafted to be much more than that, and I just think that was ultimately overly aggressive. Like, that's the bottom line here.
If you look at the names that we've put in Coping Corner, like I think, I have some fondness for Kenneth Walker. Obviously, I think he could be a really good player in the right situation. But if you look at all the names, like I think McMillan at this stage of everyone's career, probably the most talented. Like I think so. That's why it hurts putting him in there, because you could see so many other paths for him where he ended up having a monster rookie season where he has double-digit touchdowns and he ends up being this difference maker along the way for you. And yet in his current situation, I don't think it's going to happen. So that's why I'm willing to concede that let's do Coping Corner.